I'm Carlene, and this is Diva Tonight. I have with me Amy Beckley, and she is a scientist. I guess we say, do they call you Dr. Beckley? I mean, you're a PhD, or no?
I prefer not to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important to talk about the fact that this series is devoted to turning 40, life after 40, and just how women's bodies change. And you've studied, fertility and hormone issues because of your own personal experience. So I guess the most important question to ask is, what drove you to take on this endeavor?
Yeah. Excellent question. I'm a scientist. I started my career thinking I wanted to be a medical doctor. I don't like the sight of blood or needles. And so I quickly pivoted to think, okay, well, what else can I do in the healthcare field that's not patient care? And so that's where I landed in the scientist world. And when I was 28, 29, got married, bought a good house with 2 extra rooms in a nice neighborhood where, the school I wanted my kids to go to and all that stuff. And thought, hey, how hard could it be to have kids? And it was incredibly hard. And it was so hard because of the way healthcare was set up. It's almost like I felt like we were expected to fail before anybody would help us. It's like you're drowning in your last breath. They're like, okay, maybe I'll pull you out of the water. And that's because women just don't get the education on any of this stuff. We don't get educated about our hormones, our fertility. I mean, we're taught one time of unprotected sex and you're going to get pregnant. And so, when I went through it, I had no resources and I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility and told IVF was my only option because they didn't know what was wrong with me. $40,000 later, I have a 14-year-old son now. And after that experience, I kind of went back to the doctor and I'm like, we're going to figure out why IVF worked, but I couldn't do it naturally. And that's when I really got interested in hormones. And I, through a series of events, found out that I just had a hormone imbalance and I wasn't producing enough of this hormone called progesterone. And so when you try to conceive, most everything in the world is all about timing, right? You download some app, it tells you when your fertile window is, you buy a thermometer, you buy ovulation tests, whatever. And it's like, you got to get the timing right. Timing wasn't my problem. I could get pregnant. I just couldn't hold a pregnancy. And so I started dissecting, okay, what is this process? And you have estrogen in the first half of the cycle, you release an egg, and then you have progesterone in the second part of your cycle. And during IVF, they, give you medications to produce estrogen. They, fertilize the egg for you. And then they give you a bunch of progesterone to support the pregnancy. And I said, maybe my body's just not making enough progesterone. Can I have supplemental progesterone? And that worked. And so I have a daughter who's natural. She just was with a little bit of progesterone. And it was like $100 pregnancy as opposed to like $40,000 pregnancy. And that's when I really got passionate about, we need to have better educational tools to tell women about their bodies so that they can advocate for themselves. And so traditional healthcare, you have to be trying 12 months or have 3 miscarriages before you can go in. And by the time that happens, you're in this emotional downward spiral that you just want a baby. You wanted a baby a year ago, and you're just so frustrated that you just want it now. And they'll tell you, well, IVF is your fastest option, which it is. But, I wanted to build a platform that educated women. And it's not just about fertility. So this hormone imbalance was causing me to be infertile and not be able to hold pregnancies is the same imbalance women go through in their 40s as they enter perimenopause. And so we're building a system that understands the ebb and flows of the hormones to dissect what are good patterns, what are patterns that could be causing symptoms, how do you see certain patterns and correct them into optimal hormone balance. Because for a long time, women have seen their periods as a crutch, right? It's I'm heavy periods, painful periods, I'm cramping, I just don't want to go anywhere, see anybody, do anything. And instead, I would love to unlock this superpower for her, because when you have beautiful, balanced hormones, you are more creative, you are more productive, you are more attractive to your partners. It is just an amazing thing. And hormones are not just to get pregnant. They help your brain function, your bones be strong, your heart work. And so I really just want to create a way to understand these and help women live well through these stages of their life.
Yeah, I think you've covered a lot there in terms of hormones to begin with, because I think at 40, this is when your body changes, right? In a way that, like you said, we don't really necessarily know. Like my own personal experience, I ended up in the hospital because my iron levels were so low. And I've been taking iron supplements, not consistently, but I was like, this is the first time in my life where it's like, wow, I had to do a blood transfusion because they were like, can't do anything else. I was like, please, and they have to do all the tests and everything. And it ended up being that I have this condition, which is kind of like attacking my hemoglobin pretty much. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of women have this, and it's not a conversation that we often speak about. So listening to you talk about your own journey with infertility, and that's not just the only thing that women struggle with. It's just like you said, it's another thing where having fibroids is another problem that women experience, and that could make it harder to have kids. And then it's like, if you don't have children, it's the time crunch where it's like, okay, if you want to have kids now, like you only have so much time because now you're 40. So now what? You know what I mean? So
yeah, this is a lot we don't know about women. We haven't really invested enough time and money and resources in women.
And you're in the U.S. Remind me again, you're in Colorado. You said
Colorado.
Yeah, you're in Colorado. And I'm here in Canada. And yeah, it's the same thing here. You know, oh, these are my options. I got a hysterectomy, have your 4 fibroids removed, but they'll come back. And so I was like, it's like a shock to the system. So I'm like, maybe I'll get a second opinion. There must be other options, right? So
yeah. I used this analogy the other day. Healthcare isn't really healthcare; it's disease care, right? It's when you already have a problem and they're trying to fix the problem. They're not actually trying to prevent it or cure it. In the most times, right? And so we really want to focus on healthcare, right? How do you maintain a healthy lifestyle? How do you prevent diseases, prevent these conditions? And we just don't do that kind of research. We wait until it's like such a huge problem and then come in with this medical Band-Aid that covers up the issue. And we really need to start thinking about how do we correct these things and have people have a better health span, not just a lifespan, but a health span.
Yeah. And hearing you talk about like your own journey, I'm happy that you're able to have both your children, you know, as a result of like being determined, you know, like you didn't give up. So I think it goes to say that you're a resilient person and like going through. Yeah, it's very stubborn, right?
Ask my mom, I'm stubborn.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah. Do you think it's hereditary, the issues that you were struggling with when it comes to low progesterone, as you mentioned?
Yes, I think there's some environmental, but there's also some genetic and, passing from generation to generation. So when you have sperm meets egg, it's half and half, but the egg is about this big and the sperm is teeny tiny. So the sperm only contributes the DNA component, but the egg houses everything else. So the mitochondria, the metabolism, everything else. And we're learning that mitochondria have their own set of genetic materials, and that is passed on from mother to child. And that is something that, and so that's why we're seeing, PCOS generational, like mom has PCOS, daughter has PCOS, because it's a lot of...
What is PCOS?
PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It affects 1 out of 10 women, so about 10%, 10 to 12% of the population. On average, it takes 10 years for a diagnosis because the outward facing signs are can be different between one woman to another. And a lot of times it's brushed off as like, oh, you're just not eating healthy, or you have slow metabolism, or whatever. So some of the signs are oily skin, acne, hair on the face, on the abdomen, weight around the middle. These are not always true. And a lot of times when women get these symptoms, they get on birth control to kind of quiet their ovaries and the symptoms go away. And so then they're just masking those symptoms or not curing anything. And so when they, come off birth control to conceive or whatever, all these symptoms come back. And so it's very common. Endometriosis is also 1 out of every 8 to 10 women have endometriosis. Also takes 10 years to diagnose. It's just, we don't have good diagnostic tests. There's no like one criteria. It's not like a single blood draw. Yep, here you go. You have it or you don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's like the amount of testing, but based on your research, what you've created, Prove, the actual, what would you say? I guess from what I've read, it basically gives you a test to let you know like more about your hormones, right? Altogether, right? And so
it's an at-home hormone testing platform. It's got test strips and then the companion app that goes with it. And it basically tells you, to test your hormones. So we get all 4 hormones. We track it across the cycle. So you just collect, first morning urine, take a test, takes 10 minutes. You get the values, hormone values on the phone. And then we track the entire cycle and we give you like this hormonal report card at the end that talks about things like if you're trying to conceive, like your egg reserve, key hormone ratios. Are you ovulating? Do you have enough progesterone to support pregnancy after ovulation? And so it's much more in depth than like, did you hit your fertile window or not? And we're now seeing these patterns where we can see certain hormonal patterns that indicate that a woman might actually have PCOS, might actually have endometriosis. We see patterns where we know women are stressed out and it's affecting their hormonal patterns. And that's huge because nobody's ever had any of that kind of research before. It's been like, oh, stress doesn't affect you, or there hasn't been like a study of why. It's just like, I'm stressed out, I can't sleep. Okay, here's some Ambien. That's a Band-Aid again.
Yeah, where it's like, there's other ways to deal with stress, exercise, diet. There's so many components to that, and now we've become, because we're overstimulated too with technology. And so it's like, sometimes you need to slow down, but this is amazing though. Everything for as women, when you're on your menstrual cycle, your hormones are out of whack, right? And so it's a wake up call at 40. I think it is. It's been a blessing and kind of like all these other ailments, all these other health concerns that we have to think about. And it's wow. So what you've done is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So turning 40. So I'm going to bring up the M word, the menopause discussion.
Yeah.
Menopause typically is for 51, 52, and that is like menopause. But studies are showing that women starts that hormonal decline by late 30s. And so by 40, you already have hormone decline and you're going towards that. And so there's a huge misconception that, oh, you have periods still, you can't be treated for menopause. Let's wait till you're 50. Menopause is defined as 12 months without a period. So if you've already gone 12 months without a period, you've actually technically been in menopause for a whole year before you have the official diagnosis, and you're depriving yourself of these hormones that are causing these symptoms. So like every cell in your body has receptors for estrogen and progesterone, every single one of them. And when you stop making them, your body kind of revolts and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting this hormone. And that's where you get the hot flashes, the night sweats, the brain fog, the anxiety, the inability to sleep, the waking up at 3 a.m. going, why am I awake at 3 a.m.? This makes zero sense. Just because your hormones are declining. Mm-hmm. And so we want to create a platform that allows women to check those hormones, watch them decline, do some kind of intervention, because we're all going to go through menopause. We don't have to suffer symptoms of menopause. You can replace the hormones you're not making. You can support them with supplements until you can't make them anymore. And so I don't think we should just wait till menopause is here to do anything. We should take a proactive role and monitor these things. I'm a huge advocate of progesterone. I think it's the miracle hormone. It is the happiness hormone. It is the mood balancing hormone. It is the sleep hormone. And like almost no women know what progesterone is. They know estrogen, but they don't know progesterone.
Yeah, I'm one of those women where I don't know a lot about progesterone. I know about my hormones and estrogen itself because we produce estrogen and men produce testosterone. Now, that's what makes men different than women, obviously, other than their human anatomy, right? But it's very important to know your body and know your family history.
Yeah. So women also produce testosterone, and it is very important for women as well. We just need lower levels of the testosterone. So there's many women that swear by testosterone replacement during menopause. It helps with energy, with focus, things like that. The problem with testosterone is you can take too much of it, and then you start getting these deeper voice, hair on the face, like more like male type of characteristics. But like at the right dose, like it's a very powerful thing because it helps you focus and have energy and muscle tone and everything else.
Diva Tonight. Glamour for your ears. This is 40, a female perspective.
It's amazing how much you know. So they say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. I feel like if you're at that point. So this is obviously more than one conversation, but we're going to go back to the beginning, to your life now and the person that you are, who's the advocate for this program, and, you know, just your personal life. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Southern California. I had really bad headaches, migraines as a child, and I would basically just couldn't get up. I would just be so nauseous and vomiting and had such bad vertigo that I just couldn't get up. And all the physicians were like, yeah, you know, it's just migraines. Like, here's some migraine medication. And my mom was like, no, something is not right here. And so she just kept taking me to different places to get more and more opinions and answers. And finally, this doctor said, hey, you know, why don't we just get her an MRI? Let's just see if there's anything in the brain causing these issues. Sitting on the MRI table, a doctor happened to walk by and was like, who is on that table? Because she has got a huge brain tumor. And it is like basically sitting on the stem, preventing the fluid for circulating. And that's what was causing me basically the vertigo and the vomiting. And so I got out, I went to the waiting room. There's my mom just bawling, sobbing, and wasn't allowed to go home, had surgery the next day. And thankfully, I'm perfectly fine. They removed the whole thing. It hasn't grown back. But if I hadn't had my mom to advocate for me, it could have gotten so big that it just would have killed me. And that's why I really wanted to go into medicine so that I could be that doctor. Because doctors are human, medical professionals are human. They have a certain history, a certain background, ideology. And if you happen to get a bad one, you could miss things, right? So I wanted to be one of the good ones. I wanted to be the one that could, help. And I don't know if you remember that show House, where it was like,
I love House. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to be House. The female version of House is going to be amazing. But when I volunteered in an ER and the doctor was like, hold this hand while I give stitches, I literally almost passed out. And I'm like, I'm going to have to find another career path. And so that's kind of where this idea of empowerment and advocating and trying to have ownership in your healthcare kind of merged with my infertility journey. And it was like, this is the perfect like marriage of what I want to do and how I can kind of give back and do what I want to do.
Yeah. So after med school, like I guess you more focused on the science end of things, right? So
yeah. I lived in San Diego at the time, and it was a big biotech hub, a lot of pharma companies, and I just got my foot in the door from a colleague, another student, and I just loved it. Like, so we were just trying to figure out what drugs did to develop better drugs that doctors would use, right? And I was so fascinated by this. I loved it. I just total science nerd, loved just sitting there with my lab coat, my pipettes, and doing stuff and listening to the radio. It was like, really awesome.
Yeah. I think it's very important that we find what we're supposed to do in life. And I give kudos to your mom for being so determined and not giving up, because when you're young, you don't have the voice to speak up for yourself and someone who's there to help you. And not everybody is blessed with parents like that. And I think it says to who you are and your character, and that despite everything that has happened, you found the light at the end of the tunnel, as they say, right? So
yeah.
So, Prav, you mentioned to me how much money has been raised to create this fertility test. You know what I mean? That's pretty much what it is, right? What would you say Prav is? Like, if I were to use the perfect terminology, I guess, you know what I mean? It's like a test in a box, but at the end of the day, it's an important test, a test that we don't necessarily think of, right?
Yeah. I would say it's a full cycle hormone analysis platform. And we don't just analyze it, but we try to correct and prevent imbalances. So yeah, it's more than fertility. It's like hormones.
Mm-hmm. Hormones, everything. Yeah.
80% of women have hormonal issues throughout their life, whether it's heavy periods, painful periods, PMS, lack of periods, menopause, fertility, miscarriage. Like there's just fibroids, you know?
Yeah. So how much is it? I mean, can we, because you're in the US, is it available in Canada?
Yes.
Online. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah. So you can get it in Canada. You have to import it. Health Canada is very strict.
They are. Yeah.
So, but you can import it yourself. So you have to pay like the import fees, but it's depending on what you get, about $90 US. And it gives you that full analysis of the cycle. We're sometimes on Amazon, sometimes not. Depends on how Amazon feels that day.
Yeah. Availability and everything, or like you said, because you have to pay the import, right?
Yeah.
Everything going on in the world right now. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. That's another conversation in itself. But so the website, pravtest.com. And I guess if you want more information, you can go online and learn more about hormone therapy and perimenopause, because I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of women and not only myself, like I can name a few of my girlfriends who have had so many struggles, like, you know, going to the doctor, going to the gynecologist, and another test. We're trying to figure out what is the best way to go about it, the best diet. You know, like, do I see a doctor and a naturopath? What is your suggestion as an advocate for yourself and other women who struggle with infertility and also with hormone issues? What do you say to that? Because it's challenging.
I always say you have to have a good tribe, a good community around you. And if you go to a doctor, whether it's a traditional healthcare setting or a naturopath or a chiropractor or health coach or whatever, and you feel you're not being listened to, you need to go find somebody else. You know, you're paying somebody for that service. And if they're not communicating with you in a way that you like, don't go back. You'd never go back to a restaurant that treated you like crap and the food was gross, right? Same thing with healthcare. And so always advocate for yourself. Find somebody who will listen, that you feel comfortable with. You also need to have a community around you. So infertility specifically is really hard because women don't want to admit that they're going through it at the time, because it almost feels like we're less of a woman. Like, oh my gosh, I can't do something so simple that I was supposed to be able to do. I am ashamed. I just don't want to talk to my family. And so a lot of people won't tell their parents, won't tell their friends. And so those are times to get in with a community of people you don't know and surround yourself with people that are going through it. So, you know, our pillars are education and community as well. So we have communities on Facebook, both for the perimenopause, 40 plus women, and also the fertility women. Education. We don't get this education in schools. We have free ebooks you can download. We have emails that have different blog topics and stuff like that. So just, even if you don't need to test your hormones right now, just having that education and that sense of community is really, really important, because you're not alone and you need people by your side that you can, cry on their shoulder when you get a negative test, or offer advice, or help you move forward in your journey.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. It's so important to have people that support you in your journey in life because there's ups and yeah, life is too
short to be
short.
surrounded by crappy people.
Yes, you got that right. Thank you so much, Amy Beckley. I feel like we have to discuss more again because there's so much that you can share. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like there's so much to say about perimenopause and just certain things in itself. I mean, obviously, this is just the beginning, but the fact that you invested in this, like you said, the one question I didn't ask is how were you able to get the funding to launch this?
So I, went through my issue. I found out that I just needed progesterone. And I'm like, there's no way to measure this hormone at home. I have to have a gatekeeper of a doctor who tells me I have to be at the point of desperation, looking at the edge of the cliff. We need to have some way to give this information to women before. So we actually launched a crowdfunding campaign. And it just said, if this is a good product, people want this, they'll buy it. We raised about $40,000 that way. And we launched the product. We launched it on Amazon first. And we sold it and kind of learned from the community of what they liked, what they didn't like, and kind of improved the product. And then after about a year of sales, we went out for kind of venture funding and was able to raise money because we already had enough sales on Amazon that we were allowed to kind of look at venture funding. And so ask investors to invest in the company. It's really hard as a woman founder with a women's health product to go to the traditional venture community because they don't know anything about women's health. This is a brand new product. There's no market. You're creating a whole new market for something. And so it was really important that we had some traction first to say, yep, this is a product that women want. Give us more money and we can build and grow and build the product that we wanted to build. But a lot of times people don't have that. It's like the chicken or the egg, you need the money to build the thing and you can't to do the thing until you have the money. And it's it's hard.
But you managed to do it. And here we are now. And it's been how long since you launched? I think it was 2020 from what I saw.
Yeah, we got FDA clearance in 2020, but we've been selling since 2018.
Okay.
Been seven years. Long time.
Yeah, I heard your interview on a show in 2020, and you guys were talking about how 1 in 4 women fertility issues, and so it's those numbers are quite a lot. It obviously impacts quite a few women more than we know. You know what I mean? So it's just I think you're here to help women like myself and any other women. I think that's your gift to the world, right? So.
Yeah, if I had to suffer through hell and back to get to where I'm at, someone should benefit from what I went through.
No, thank you so much for taking the time to share this process. I feel like I learned a little bit more about myself, you know what I mean? Because we have to be our advocate for ourselves as women.
100%. Yeah. Who else is going to do it?
Yeah, no one.
Nobody.
Yeah. It's like the unspoken thing, the unspoken hero, you know what I mean? You have to. Yeah, even with mental health, I think I've had to do that too in both cases. But so if anyone wants to check out you on social media, what's your handle again? I know you have both. So
so we're on Facebook and Instagram. Those are our 2 biggest channels. So it's PROOVTEST for the Instagram for the fertility. Then it's PROOV Harry for the perimenopause one.
Yeah, that's important. So, like I said, join the Facebook community to talk to other women, about their own experiences because community is important and having other women who have been through similar experiences. So
supportive community. We don't let negativity, we check negativity at the door. I cannot stand Reddit because it is just bitching, complaining, and not very much help. Yeah. And so we built this community to be helpful, right? We moderate it so that, people make sure they, not moderate it, but we respond to people in the community so they always get an answer. we, support them in any way. And we make sure that the comments are not negative or we kick people off out of the group, but supportive community, not just community.
Yeah, no, I understand that. There's a lot of negativity and, have to weed that out. So obviously there's a process with it too, right? But it's good that you've built that, you know what I mean? A positive with people who support each other, Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm Carlene, and this is Diva Tonight with Amy Beckley. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been great.
Diva Tonight with Carlene will be back. Send us a message on Instagram at Diva_Tonight.
Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Diva Tonight. I just have to clarify the correct pronunciation of the fertility hormone test, which allows women to test their hormone levels if they're having fertility issues. The correct name is Prove. Again, it's Prove, and you can go online, check it out. It's provetest.com, and you can learn more about this amazing product, which allows women to find out exactly why they're having issues conceiving. Many women struggle with infertility and they're not sure why. And this test helps figure out what is missing. So again, it's called Prove, and Dr. Amy Beckley created this product to help women like you who are struggling to figure out what's wrong.